Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. and today I'm joined by Eric and David from Sky Kingdom Games. The first time we did this, I said for Isofarian Guard, and I'm doing it right this time. From Sky Kingdom Games.
Hey.
But, do you guys want to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, so I'm Eric Bitterman from Sky Kingdom Games. I'm the owner, and I'm the designer of the Isofarian Guard.
I'm David Yashik of Sky Kingdom Games, and I am the creative director and writer of Isofarian Guard.
And today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking about the Isofarian Guard, and specifically the expansion Veilward, just so you can get a general idea of what to expect from the new content that this expansion will be introducing, a small little overview of the Isofarian Guard, and then just whatever, I'm going to be asking questions to try to figure out more, and this way you can be along for that journey of figuring out more. But before we do the figuring out more part, the main things to note is the Isofarian Guard Veilward will be launching on GameFound on June 17th?
June 17th?
June 17th. At what time?
10 o'clock Central.
10 o'clock Central, June 17th. I'll have a link to the campaign down below. And also, we're gonna have some components and stuff on the table to show you different things. Is this, this is prototype, not prototype? What is this?
This is pretty final for most of what's on the table here.
Okay, cool. But mostly final stuff as far as the expansion goes, as far as what's on the table goes.
Yes.
But with that said, do you want to give a short, because there's going to be a lot of people watching this video a lot of people who are familiar with Isofarian Guard, who are looking to find out more about what Veilward adds.
Yes.
But there's also people who are just, found this video, the campaign looked cool, they've never played the game before, they have no idea what they're signing up for. Starting off, the short version, for those people, what's the short pitch on the Isofarian Guard?
So the Isofarian Guard is a 1 to 2 player, narrative-driven adventure game. And the primary mechanic in the game is bag building. You're going to be controlling 2 different guards throughout 5 different interweaving campaigns. And one main component, or one part of the game that I like to feature is the entire story, the entire narration is audio narrated with Foreteller. So it's got 25 hours of incredible audio narration with beautiful orchestral music behind it as well. It's an incredible adventure.
Now, I'll say 2 things to that. One is, you were one of the first people, one of the first big names to use Foreteller.
Yeah, when Foreteller was first starting out, I remember talking to one of their guys and discovering his work in a Facebook group. And he was making some tracks for Gloomhaven at the time. I reached out, I thought they were amazing, and I said, I think the game we're designing, which was this one, the audio would be incredible if we could integrate it, and the rest is history.
Which brings me to my second point. If you have listened to different things on Foreteller, there is a range. It's all good. All of it's good. But there is a range in how much it's adding to the experience. The main thing that hooked me about the Isofarian Guard from the very get-go, from the first time I saw your campaign, was how good the audio is in this game. I think that Isofarian Guard, I haven't done all the Foreteller apps, so I can't speak to every single game, but from the ones I've seen, I think this represents the highest peak of consistent quality. That you'll usually get some peaks in different games, but not this level across the board. That's my own 2 cents from what I've listened to so far, which is not all of it.
We'll take it.
There's a lot.
Yeah.
But with that said, so that's kind of the Isofarian Guard. That's the general pitch of Isofarian Guard, which brings us to Veilward, which is where we're going to dive into all the things that are new, which we're going to start off with that kind of open-ended, what's new about Veilward?
So Veilward changes quite a bit of stuff while keeping a lot of the core of the game the same. So you're still going to be controlling 2 different guards. You're still going to have bag building as the core part of the game. But the expansion is going to bring deck building. It's going to change up the way exploration is done. And it's going to be shorter than the base game, about 60% of the length as well. And you can, of course, expect that same incredible audio narration to be returning.
So the entire expansion, Veilward, you're saying is roughly 60% of the length of Isofarian Guard?
Correct.
And the Isofarian Guard is how long, for those who don't know?
So if you were to concentrate on just the main story of the Isofarian Guard, you'd be looking at around 150 to 200 hours of content. If you added all the optional content, you could add another 75 to 100 hours. And if you were to play Veilward, you're going to be looking at probably 100 hours less than that. So about half, a little over half of the length of the core.
So not a small amount, despite being 60% of the content.
Yeah, it's not a standard expansion.
Like
I definitely want to say that.
I think we were looking at the length of 2 of the other campaigns from the original game.
Yeah.
And to be clear, this is not standalone. This is an expansion. You need the original game to play.
You do. Yeah, you're going to be using most of the components in the game, all of the weighted chips, all of the boards and things like that, and many of the cards too, and cubes. But it does add another close to 1,000 cards. another tray of 120 weighted chips. So it's got a lot of content in the expansion as well.
Gotcha. So I have a whole bunch of different jumping off points I want to go to, so hopefully I'll remember all my questions. But I want to start touching upon the deck building aspect. You mentioned this deck building game.
Yes.
So again, to those who haven't used the system, you're going to have your character boards over here, and you're going to have basically cards in the game. This is like, I'm saying my default knowledge of Isofarian Guard, not anything to do with Veilward. And so you're going to have these cards that as you activate cards, you're going to be flipping them, and that's going to be your core mechanism, choosing which cards join you in combat, choosing the various stones you're going to be using and all that, and then trying to figure out the flipping balance. Where does deck building come into this picture?
So in Veilward, there's going to be a new battle phase that's added. So in the core game, you've got the standard battle phase that kind of happens in the normal world. And at the end of the round, the players will have the option to switch into the Veil. When they do that, there's a new board that they will be using, and they will be drawing cards from this board, and this is where the deck is being built. So the characters have a separate skill tree where they can acquire these cards, and they'll get these cards through quests in different ways. But in this new battle phase, these characters change into something else. I'm going to let David talk a little bit more about that later. But these regular characters transform into new characters that are much more powerful, and they have different complete abilities and things that they could do with this deck.
Well, I guess going to this might be for you, David, but thematically, what's happening with the characters over here?
So this is it. The game starts off at the same time as the Isofarian Guard. So we're back in the beginning of the game. For those of you who've
and I should know before we continue, are the questions I'm asking spoiler free?
Yes, I will not
so
be.
All questions are spoiler free.
Yes, as much as I am able. I will not. I hate it when people tell me the end of movies and books.
Honestly, I'm fine either way. I just want people to know before we get there.
No. So I won't say anything that happened in Isofarian Guard. For those of you who've played it, you know. But we will be going back to that time period to introduce these characters. So it's that same world with low magic, and then they all of a sudden get, we're calling it magic, but they all of a sudden become stonebound. And then we're going to take, this is a slight spoiler, but it's the very first part of the game. Something happens, they become more powerful. If you know one of the characters, Dunamis, from our original game, he is this mysterious supernatural being.
Okay.
So they actually are going to become like him. So then we go through a time skip. This is 7 years later. The world has changed. Everything that you went through in the first game has happened, and now it's 7 years later, and these characters are coming out of a hibernation and have to rediscover what is going on. Right. And they have no clue what happened.
And so when they have these two phases, that's the aspect being like Dynamis?
So they're going to be in the physical world. They are humanoid and have these physical powers, sword and shield,
The guards of Isofar,
yeah. And then they can convert and switch and slip into the Veil, which is like the spiritual realm, and they'll become more powerful and have big suits of armor and magical weapons and all that stuff.
Now, so this deck building has nothing to do with these cards. It's a different deck.
Right.
Correct.
Okay. Because I think the first time when I first heard that, I knew that the Veilward is going to have deck building from a while ago when you announced the game.
Yep.
I just assumed that these cards would be like this system, but with deck building is what I assumed. So how does this play out? So you have a deck building over here. You have some cards over there. Like, what are you doing with this deck?
So when you switch into the Veil,
you're
going to be drawing cards from both of these boards. And like I said, this is a 1 to 2 player game. When you're playing 2 players, one of the differences when you go into the Veil is the players can play these cards on the same grid as your other cards back and forth. So you don't have to complete one player's turn and wait for them to be done, and then you go. You can play cards back and forth and interplay on this grid.
Okay.
So when you switch, you'll be taking these cards off, and then you'll have this empty grid, and you'll be placing these new cards onto the grid. And one of the cool parts, these are called Veil ability cards. When you're playing these cards, you're going to be wanting to link element symbols on these cards to get bonus effects. So positioning matters, and the enemies are going to be placing cards also on your board that you'll have to deal with. And if you don't deal with those negative cards and you switch back from the Veil into the regular world, those cards will persist, which means these older cards won't have as many spots that you can go into, and it'll limit what you can do.
Gotcha. So it is an in-between phase that literally, the regular combat phase is the same as it was.
Yes.
This adds an extra element that persists into the regular combat.
Exactly.
Phase. Cool. So that's as far as what the new deck building phase does. What other new mechanics are there?
You want to talk about exploration?
Sure, yeah. We know that some of the feedback we got was that it was too hard to travel through the world. You were having to stop every a couple spaces to do a fight, which could take some time. And so we wanted to limit that. We released some rules that allowed you to spend your action points to skip spaces, to skip battles. And in this game, you can still do that. And also, since you're now spiritual beings, you can teleport. So we allow you to do that without drawing from the exploration bag at all. You just choose a spot, teleport to it. But every time you do that, you draw the attention of something in the veil. So there's this tension meter we have over there. I don't know if that's on camera.
Yeah, it's on camera.
Okay. So every time you teleport, this tension meter rises. And when you reach these thresholds, like right now it's 3, 6, and 10, you will put a special chip in your bag, which the next time you draw from your exploration bag, you'll have an encounter with this special monster who will increase in power the higher your tension is.
So as a player, I have the agency to go through the world at a normal pace, or
Correct.
to jump around, but then have to
Yes.
have a combat encounter in some way, shape, or form.
Exactly right.
So you can delay fighting, but we wanted to put it much more in the player's hands on choosing when they wanted to battle.
Yeah, player agency was important, and I think we really wanted to lean into more exploration and exploring the world. So not forcing players into battles all the time. Battle, before I'm actually able to see the world. So I can choose when to battle. There's going to be a little bit less battles, but when you do battle, it's going to be more meaningful and grand.
All right, so my next question requires a bit of a recap to something else that you introduced in the last campaign, which is cinematic mode.
Yes.
Because I have a question on what you just said, but I think people who don't know what cinematic mode might need to know what cinematic mode is first. So cinematic mode was introduced in the last campaign, because there's been 2 campaigns so far, the original campaign, and then the second campaign, which kind of there's an upgrade pack, there's a cinematic mode, a bunch of things to address different aspects while also having a reprint available. Cinematic mode, and I'm sure you can add to it, but the short version is it kind of reduces the time frame of that game. I think you said it takes off 50 to 100 hours.
Yeah, at least.
But effectively what you're doing is you're reducing all the combats that aren't going to add to the story effectively. So as you go through the game, you have a lot of story-driven combats you're going to be engaging with, but then as you travel the world, you're also facing off against the threats that the world provides. And one of the things that cinematic does, because it does a few, is it effectively, once you've had an encounter, you can skip that encounter in the future. You don't have to face off against that same beast. You've already done so.
Correct.
And you do the math. There's some minor accounting. You get some stuff, you get some damage, whatever it is. Kind of distills, it lets you speed up through the experience to make it still engaged in the gameplay. There's a ton of actual gameplay. It's not just a story game, but it reduces some of the extra grind, so to speak, if you don't enjoy that. So now that we've kind of caught people up on cinematic, how does this work? Do you have cinematic mode in Veilward?
So not cinematic mode.
Okay.
So you're not going to be able to skip battles the same way. Like if you've already
So this
defeated an enemy.
replaces cinematic, full on.
Yeah, it's a complete replacement. So we've taken the idea of what we're trying to do in cinematic mode, but it's just done in a different way.
Cool.
So we still want to have them, be able to control the battles more and focus on the story. So yeah, I think we've done that pretty well.
Cool. There's a lot of backstory just to get that one question. I need
Yeah.
to figure out the difference. All right, so we have the exploration
big
mechanics that are different. We have the deck building phase. Anything else new? And there's more content, new
Yes.
characters, all that stuff. You mentioned 2 storybooks. Is that like the size of it, or it literally is 2 storybooks?
This is all one story, so you'll be
Single.
taking these guards through one campaign, but that campaign is going to be about the length of 2 campaigns.
So do
from
you
the
only
original
have
game,
2 new characters?
Yes.
Only 2 new characters. Yeah, and
Playable.
we talked about there's
And again,
definitely more.
For context, original campaign split up to 5 storybooks. 5,
Yes.
right? 5?
5.
Yes.
5
and,
campaigns.
And you always are going through these pairs of characters. So that's why I'm asking only 2 characters for this one larger story.
Sure.
Okay.
I was gonna say one thing to note though is even though there's only 2 guards, they're definitely more complex.
Okay.
So there's more. They have 4 different keywords. So in the base game, each guard had 1 keyword. So because you've got the physical battle phase and the veil battle phase, you've got a separate
4
keyword in
different
each one.
Each or 2 different each?
2 different each, so 4 total, and then plus the deck building, and then we didn't even talk about this icon on the board yet, but this is something new to the battle system as well, called the elemental ring system.
Okay.
So we're going to dive into this a little bit more during the campaign, but if you're familiar with like limit break systems and like Final Fantasy or Ultimate systems, basically, when they use particular element ability cards, they'll place gems on this board, and when they get this entire thing full, they're able to use an ultimate ability because they are these stronger entities. They're able to completely destroy enemies.
And I should note, and I don't know if you'll see it in that because I have no clue what's in it, but you did do a video with Jeremy Howard and Man vs. Meeple with some gameplay stuff.
Yeah, a little bit of gameplay stuff where we go through most of like a round of battle and go into the Veil a little bit.
Do you see the deck building at all? Or
a little bit, yeah.
Okay,
a little bit.
So check that out. I'll try to link to it down below, but check out Man vs. Meeple if you want to see some of this new content in action.
Yes.
Alright, so we have the new characters, we have, and also, for those who don't know, and I assume you can't use these characters in previous content, just the way the story is.
No.
Yeah.
Right.
The way Isofarian Guard is, everything's built around the characters. It's not like plug and play. It is very involved, very invested, and so they really, two new characters, two new campaign content. So new characters, new content, new deck building, exploration, the new travel system, which I guess is exploration,
new audio,
limit break systems, new audio, obviously.
Yes.
Anything else?
New world map. We forgot the whole
new world map. Okay,
that's a big deal.
There's a whole nother country to explore.
That is a big deal.
So everything we have the old Isofar. It's still there. It's
if I remember,
completely redone.
I'll try to throw a screenshot of the old Isofar up for those who want to see it. But yeah.
So you'll be going to old Isofar in the first part of the game, but it's changed. So everything, the locations have changed. The scenery's changed a little bit. And then during the second half of the game, you'll be traveling to Falmund, which is the country to the south that Isofar has been at war with for all this time. Opening up a whole nother group of people, a whole nother culture.
So to build off what you said there, so you have old Isofar, which is changed though.
Yes.
So you have a new version of the old world.
Of the old map. So nodes are different, roads are different, main maps are different. Because this is happening after the events of the first game.
So
that's why it looks different. 5 to 7 years
and
after.
The mini maps will all reflect the changes that happened in the base game.
Yeah, I was gonna point out that's something really different actually that we should talk about is mini maps in this game. And if you're not familiar with Isofarian Guard, you've got this main map with these cities on it, and you can drill down into each city, and each city has its own smaller map.
Yeah.
So mini maps work differently in the expansion. They're not just pretty to look at where I just move my character around, but they have utility. So
in what sense?
You go into a mini map now, and you have different actions that you can take at different nodes. And the node color is not going to be green. If you're familiar with Isofarian Guard, green nodes were safe nodes. I just move from node to node. I don't draw anything from a bag. In Veilward, you're going to have different nodes where you will be drawing from the bag in the city, and different things can happen. City events. People have been asking for city events for a while, and other things. So maybe I want to go to the blacksmith and get a bonus from him while I'm there. If I buy something, he'll give me some extra bonus chips in my bag. So there's going to be a reason to actually visit certain places and actually take out that mini map on the table.
And they won't be safe havens anymore.
Yes. So, not all of them.
Well, speaking of chips, that's also a good thing to talk about what's new. There's new chips, right?
There are, I know another tray of 120 weighted
What's
chips.
all the new stuff? Because that seems like a whole lot of new chips. Like, what are they doing?
There are a lot of new chips. Most of the new chips are chips that are going to be utilized in the new Veil battle phase. Okay. So those are the blue chips on the table.
So in the Veil phase, it's still bag building.
It's so.
Because I'm realizing I still have no idea.
Kind of. So. In the regular world, I'm not going to dive too much into the mechanics, but in the regular world, you're going to be utilizing your normal cards and drawing chips from the bag to activate those cards.
People,
correct.
Okay.
But when they activate their keywords on these cards, they're going to be generating these new Veil chips that'll be going on their bus cards.
Okay.
Once they go into the Veil, they will spend those chips to play these new cards from their decks.
Okay, that makes sense. We're back to making sense.
Yeah, so the two phases are dependent on each other.
So the bag building happens during the combat, but they are spent doing the Veil.
Correct.
Okay.
And then in the Veil, you're generating a resource that you'll use in the physical world. So they interplay.
And I might be crazy, but did we have light blue edges in the original?
We did not.
Okay,
no, these
so
blue chips are brand new.
Against your draw.
They will not count against your draw.
Again, this matters for those who played.
These won't be drawn at all. So
It's more of a currency you're generating.
Yeah, correct. They're going to go right on.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but other ones will go into the bag that are new. We have some new red ones, some new black ones as well. All different mechanics that are
So some new chips for regular bag building, other chips that are generated by your abilities to be used in the Veil phase.
Correct.
All right, cool. It's all starting to come together pretty. I mean, I don't know about you. I don't know if you're following. I'm starting to get a much better sense of how to play Veil.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, great. Anything else? And I'm going to keep asking this until you say no, by the way. Anything else as far as new stuff?
I think we covered all the main points. Yeah, new battle phase, completely different exploration, new audio, a gigantic main map that's dual-sided.
I don't know if you want to touch crafting. That will be streamlined to not be so grindy, but...
Yeah, crafting will be different. I don't want to dive too much into that, but one of the things that's different in Veilward is weapons and armor aren't just stat boosts.
Okay.
So in the base game, your primary focus when you changed each chapter in each campaign is you wanted to focus on getting a new weapon and a new armor because they provided extra attack damage and defense to be able to be at the same level as the enemies. And you needed to do that. It was the primary thing you needed to do. In Veilward, you'll have equipment that does that, but they're going to be focused more around the abilities. You'll have abilities that are tied to equipment to actually change your playstyle. So your equipment will actually change how your guards function in battle as well.
Okay. So that's all the new stuff.
I think we covered it all.
Keep going.
I think we covered it all, yeah. We talked about Sacred Flames, the new resource, the new boards. Yeah, I think we got it all.
Great. So it's a few other questions to dive into. So first of all, as far as touched upon this earlier, I mentioned I had branching questions. We're coming back to those points.
Yes.
So you mentioned this is an expansion. This is it's a continuation of the story.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're coming in, there's going to be few target audiences here. There's going to be people who are coming in having played the entire Isofarian Guard.
Yep.
There's going to be people who are coming in having never heard of Isofarian Guard or never played it. You might have heard of it, who cares? Not who cares, but it doesn't matter for the sake of this question. And then there's going to be people who have played partially through Isofarian Guard. So
Yes.
let's tackle those things one at a time. So if you fully played through Isofarian Guard, you just dive straight in.
We love
Yes.
you.
What do you need
Yes.
to know?
By the way.
What do you need?
What do you need to know to dive into this? Like just the rules? That's it? You're good to
Yeah,
go?
you'll have most of how to play Veilward already done because you know how to play the core game and a new shorter rule book for Veilward
Great.
to be able to dive right in.
Okay. Now, if you've played through 100 hours of Isofarian Guard and your goal is to get to Veilward as fast as possible, what are the options to you?
I would implement cinematic mode.
Okay.
That way you're focusing on the story only, you're making the whole process go quicker, and you can go right into the expansion much.
Now, strictly speaking, if I don't even want to do that, I could just listen to the story, right?
You could.
Or
you
just
could.
read the story or whatnot.
Yeah, we've had some players that do that. It is a lengthy game,
Yeah.
And there's 25 hours of audio, so the story it's grand. David,
Can I give
really-
you a secret? Is I took a family trip down to Georgia, and on the way we listened to the entire thing. So my family knows the story without having
Yes.
played the game.
Correct me if I'm
Yeah.
wrong. If you're listening to the story, you still have to make choices as you go.
Yes,
Yes.
we did.
You do.
Yeah,
So
we
So you
made
just like,
choices.
in the Foreteller app, you just make choices. You don't have to go through the actual ramifications of an actual combat. You go through the story.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, cool.
Yeah, and while that is an option, obviously we want people to play the game because, especially as you progress each campaign, and players that have played through the whole game, they know this, each campaign, the complexities and nuances of the guards they increase over time. They get more complex and more interesting, and the story becomes more layered as well, especially the finale. Once they get to campaign 4 and 5, you're able to utilize all the guards at the same time and swap them out, and the finale is unbelievable.
Cool. And then if I don't even want to do that, what are my options? If I don't want to play through it again, I played through 50 hours, whatever it is. If I don't want to listen to all the story and I think, is there a way to jump straight to Veilward at all?
You could jump right to Veilward. We're gonna have like a synopsis at the
You're a
beginning.
psychopath.
Yeah, no.
I'm just trying.
We'll give you.
There's all different people out there, different
Sure.
levels of that. We're trying to figure out depending on, because again, you might be any one of those. You might have finished everything. You might have never heard of this. You might have played through some of
Yeah.
it. You might be willing to listen to schematics. You might be willing to finish it all. I'm just trying to get the
So
answers
we
for
will
everything.
have. Well, I'll go ahead and
Sure.
say it here first.
Yeah.
In the beginning of the Veilward rulebook, we will give you a page on
What's happened so
the
far.
story so far.
Yeah.
Previously
So you can catch
on
up.
last
the
week's
Cliff's
episode.
Notes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
A brief version.
Yeah, and that's good for, honestly, that's good if you
Yeah,
play
even
the
if-
entire thing.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You played
Right.
through, but it was a year ago, and you forgot what
With a
happened.
disclaimer at the top, like, "Hey, spoilers!" If you just
Big
open up this
spoilers.
rule book, like
Yes.
it's gonna tell you. So
Now let's move to the category that I'll label the complete psychopath.
Okay.
But you might still might be possible. Is there, like, if you've never played Isofarian Guard and you want to just jump straight to Veilward, it's theoretically doable. It's just
It's possible.
a weird choice at that point.
Yeah.
yes, we recommend it. We recommend to go to the core game first, but it is definitely possible. You will
need
use
the
components. Yeah,
components.
you'll still need the base game to play.
So you still need the base
expansion.
game regardless, no matter
Yes.
what. Right. And then
Absolutely.
speaking of which, to those people, is this? I assume the answer is it's a reprint and expansion, but is it a
Correct. Yeah, the campaign on June 17th will have a reprint because we sold out twice of the core game.
Okay.
So they will be able to get the base game and expansion, and we've got some extras. We've got the Foreteller narration,
Right.
we've got some promos, and we've got some cool new custom trays from Game Trayz as well.
Okay, what do the custom trays do?
So we worked with Game Trayz. One of the things that some of our players said is, hey, we don't have a gigantic table to play Isofarian. Isofarian is a bigger game. It's got some bigger dashboards. It's got, the cards, and everything is incredibly well organized. Game Trayz did a wonderful job. You can tear down and set up this game in 10 minutes or less. But we wanted to design something that would reduce the table footprint for this game. So we redesigned the new ability dashboards. These are more functionally improvements for that. So you're able to flip the cards over easier.
Okay.
They've got little wells where you can push down and flip the cards over.
And you are flipping cards a lot, so that
You are
matters.
flipping cards a lot and replacing them, particularly in the expansion. And then we've also redesigned the enemy dashboards to be half the size that they're at. So you'll be able to have 4 enemies in the size of 2 instead of having 4 of these boards. And that's going to help for people that don't have larger game tables.
And again, if you're looking at this thinking this is not so bad, it's not, but we also don't have the entire map of Isofar out either.
Yes, the map is definitely the biggest component,
Yeah.
20 by 30 inches. So
Cool.
yeah.
All right. I think that covers my questions. I mean, I guess you could talk about pledge levels if you want. What else do you want to talk about? What else do you want to cover? Because I think I have a good picture for who this is for, what different ways you can interact with it, what new mechanics there are. I think I have a good general picture. So I think I'm satiated.
Yeah.
What else do you want to talk about?
I would just say that if you've never looked at Isofarian Guard, this is definitely the time to do so. When I designed this game, I was thinking of a game that could be played with just 1 or 2 players. And not everybody can get the game group together all the time. So this is a game where you can enjoy the story and just sit down with a close friend or loved one and, sit down and play for 10 minutes or a couple hours. And it's something that you can really enjoy. The audio narration is so immersive. And the reason why, David and I design games is so we can have people, create memories around the table. And if people are doing that, we've done our job well. So I'm really hoping that people dive into this for the first time if they've never experienced it before, because we think we've got something really special with the story, and we obviously hope they like the mechanics as well.
Cool. And I guess to that end, theoretically, if someone's not quite convinced but they want to figure out what's there, you could just get the Foreteller app, start the story, and see if you want to play the game.
You absolutely could. And we're going to have samples on the campaign page where you can listen to the first part of the intro of the core game and the expansion.
Because I will say, from my stance of things, that the audio of the intro to the game is the thing that had me interested in Isofarian Guard from the very get-go.
And the intro for the expansion, because I actually just heard...
Spoilers.
I'm not going to say anything.
If you listen
no
to
spoilers.
If you listen to the intro,
No.
They're stepping off their game.
No spoilers.
Okay, so if you listen to the intro, it is still spoiler-free. Okay.
Correct. And even spoiler-free, kind of, in the expansion. I just listened to...
That's what I'm saying. If you listen to the expansion intro, there's spoilers.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay,
correct.
good.
I just listened to it for the first time a couple days ago, and it's just as magical as the core game. The music, the effects, it is... Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Should I throw it at the end of this video?
We can put 1 or 2 tracks and let people listen to it.
Maybe.
For
So
the first time.
If you're too lazy to remember to find a look, all you have to do is just don't hit escape when this video's over, and you'll get some audio stuff.
Oh yeah, I don't think we mentioned this too, but there is a
there is
soundtrack.
more. There is more.
There are soundtracks for the game too.
Yeah.
So there's a complete soundtrack for the core game, and there will be one of the expansion. They will both be available during the campaign, and you can stream them or whatever. But a lot of the background music is also available in Foreteller. So while you're exploring the map and doing different things, you can have exploration music, there's battle music, there's separate music to play for every boss in the game. It has its own theme, so if you're all about that, it's available for you.
Excellent. Assuming there's no more, I'm going to move to the goodbye to everyone.
I think we've got it.
Cool. Well, that has been a little bit of a intro or a conversation around what you can expect from Isofarian Guard Veilward. The campaign will be launching June 17th. There'll be links down below. I'll have links to Jeremy Howard's Man vs. Meeple video. I'll have links to the campaign. If I can remember or think of any other links that are worth sharing, I will do so as well. Outside of that, I'm Alex Radical from Board Game Co. Eric and David, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.
And I'd say until next time, have a good one, but there's going to be some audio playing right about now, so I guess just keep Just
Enjoy.
Keep listening.
Thank you.
Thanks.
You raise your face toward the bright sun and smile as the cool sea breeze brushes against your cheeks.
Beautiful.
You sigh.
The perfect day for picking herbs.
Ever since you found this clifftop meadow with its sweeping view of the sea, you've been badgering the quartermaster for any excuse to visit.
What? We're out of sage again?
He had asked this morning.
That's the third time this week.
You offered back a blank stare, a shrug of the shoulders, and the weak suggestion of,
Rats?
It certainly couldn't be that the guard's most innocent-looking medic was secretly fudging the inventory in order to steal a few moments of peace and tranquility in her favorite new meadow. As you wander through the long grasses, you think about how you got to be here. It wasn't always your plan to join the guard, of course, but after both your parents died of consumption, you didn't have much of a choice. Orphans seldom do. You did, however, get to choose your specialization, medicine. With your knack for the healing arts and distaste for violence, it hasn't turned out half bad. Maybe you might even prevent some other little girl from losing her parents. Realizing your thoughts are sliding toward the maudlin, you place your hand on the earth and bring yourself back to the present. You feel the dirt below you, and you can sense the stone beneath that, reaching down impossibly far to the fiery heart of Telios. You also feel something else, like some immense presence just beyond your perception. You snap your eyes open and turn your gaze to the east. Far below on the waters of the endless sea, you can just make out the white sails of an Isofarian galley returning from patrol. A returning ship means the infirmary will be busier than usual. You'd better hurry. You head toward a promising patch of herbs, and as you stoop to harvest a few sage leaves, you're startled to hear someone call out to you. You turn to locate the voice, but you don't see anyone. What you do see makes your heart stop. Red sails. Falmund. You count 5 ships, sleek and low in the water, with a massive battering ram affixed to the front of each. The lone Isofarian galley doesn't stand a chance. You drop your herbs and run to the cliff's edge, heart thumping in your chest, but there's nothing you can do. You've never felt more helpless in your life. You drop to your knees and cry out in anguish. In your heart, you rage against Falmund and its never-ending quest for dominance, against the cruelty of generations of children having their youth ripped away by war. You wish you had the power to just make it all stop. You reach down again to feel the reassuring presence of the mountain beneath you, and suddenly, the voice returns. You can't make out the words, but they fill you with determination and hope. You rise to your feet and take in the scene below. A ball of flame catapults from the deck of a Falmund ship. It traces a lazy arc in the sky and begins its descent towards the Isofarian galley.
No!
You cry out in a wordless scream, and the voice from the mountain echoes your fury. A wave of force erupts from you and snuffs the fireball out of the sky. On the Isofarian galley below, 40 pairs of eyes look up in amazement at you, the woman who just saved them from a fiery death. Their amazement turns to horror when you leap from the cliff. However, instead of falling to your death, you surge toward the lead ship, fueled by divine rage. Midway through your flight, a brilliant flash lights up the sky, and you are instantly wielding a spear made of blinding light. A heartbeat later, you plunge through the deck of the ship, blasting sea spray and splinters high into the air.